Everyone, happy Friday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Friday, September 22nd, 2023. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are coming through with today is who said they as my throat chakra gets blocked. Who said that they had some anxiety coming into play? We are seeing that coming through very strongly right now. Hold on a minute. We are seeing that coming through very strongly right now with our Temperance card in its reversal. So if you are feeling some sense of anxiety today, pardon me, this is a sign right now of feeling a lot of this anticipation energy. One of the things that we did identify, and I will point this out, there has been a lot of slowness in activity coming out of that Venus in retrograde cycle. We are starting to see, particularly with that Judgment card coming into play, that there has been a moment of really moving in a specific direction. And we are also seeing a lot of this catch-up energy that's almost effectively coming into play here too. This is going to feel a lot for the masculine right now, because if you will recall, the card that we finished our reading with last time was that Knight of Swords. And I even brought up that for some of the masculine energy right now, there is this feeling of needing to move very quickly right now. This is a point of recalibration that we're especially seeing right now, specifically for the masculine energy that is in separation. Because what we were really identifying for the masculine energy was this point of recognizing that the feminine was effectively asking you to put something forth at this time. We saw the fact that there was a point of resistance for the masculine as it relates to giving forward in this degree or potentially deciding not to. We saw that last time the decision that a lot of the masculine energy was reaching was in relation to going towards feminine energy at this time or moving away, even though the understanding was that to move towards the feminine energy would require some point of deeper transformation. Now, even for the masculine energy that decided to work through some of this internal transformation that we're seeing, it did feel like a little bit of a point of almost worrying that you may be a little bit slow in order doing this. We recognize this here for a lot of the masculine energy, potentially feeling that sense or level of wanting to necessarily take action on something, but being somewhat afraid that it may be a little too late. We are seeing that a lot of that masculine energy is effectively playing a little bit more of that catch-up today. We're also seeing that for some of the masculine energy, this is a moment of potentially breaking away from something, not necessarily moving into that space or place where you're ready to release your autonomy. We see that this is a moment that you are also kind of moving very quickly right now, potentially away from these circumstances or situations that you feel that you're not necessarily ready to have this point of transformation on right now. For feminine energy not in partnership at this time, this is going to feel much more like potentially a point of frustration that is rising up. We are seeing that because we are seeing that for some of the masculine energy that is moving so quickly, you potentially recognizing why the masculine energy is now moving as quickly as they are. For some of the feminine energy, this is actually the point of frustration, the timing on something coming towards you right now. Not necessarily the recognition of the fact that something is coming, but recognizing that there's a point of value between when it effectively arrived versus when you had hoped to receive it. This is what feminine is also struggling with right now if you are in separation. Now, for masculine and feminine energy that is in partnership right now, this could be really communicating itself as just a feeling or level of degree of having a lot to do and not a lot of time to do it. Potentially even feeling like you're rushing or trying to get ahead of yourself right now around some circumstances or situations that you feel or appreciate or hope would have had more time to be able to do some things. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Second, whoa, what is this? Okay. We've got 3 cards coming up for our second card of the day. There's way too many cards here. Okay, we're going to take the card that's on top because there's just so many there. Next card we have coming through right now is our 9 of Swords in its transverse. So what we're really identifying at this time that we are seeing is that there is a moment right now that there are some circumstances or situations that you're not necessarily sure where you fall on. Remember how I recalled that there was a lot of that bittersweet energy that was effectively coming into play right now. We are seeing right now for both masculine and feminine energy, there is something here that is feeling bittersweet. It's coming into a space of remediation. There could even be right now for a lot of this energy that we're seeing, potentially if you are in partnership, there could be something that you are effectively waiting on right now to help you determine how you are going to feel about something. This is a moment that is feeling like something is hovering or hanging kind of over you around something right now as you wait, and you're potentially feeling the impatience to be able to understand or ascertain if this is going to be moving in a place of healing or deeper anxiety and grief. For masculine and feminine energy right now that is working in partnership, this is that unified energy that's allowing you to help work and navigate through some of this. And you are potentially feeling this mixture today of ambivalence mixed with anxiety. That's what we're really seeing. Apologies, guys. We did have a little bit of a bink there, but we are back. Sorry about that. As I was saying, so to continue with what we were saying right now, we are seeing that for a lot of the energy that is in partnership right now, this is potentially creating a lot of feelings right now, or a degree of ambivalence and anxiety in play right now. But again, being able to support one another in partnership as you navigate some of these points and hurdles is going to effectively help you at this time. Now, for masculine and feminine energy that is not in partnership right now, this is more of that bittersweet energy that we see is effectively rising to the surface right now, because there are some circumstances or situations that I see that there's something here that is almost a lot is dependent on how you are navigating what you are feeling at this time. We identified for the feminine energy right now that is working right now, even in separation. This is managing a lot of the grief, a lot of the anxiety that's effectively been coming into play over the last few days. We have been seeing that feminine energy has been working through clearing a lot of this trauma that they may have been holding on to from the past. It is requiring them to really assume a position of working a lot on their sense of stability at this time, even through some moments or feelings of emotional overwhelm. Feminine energy is also not necessarily in a space or place right now where emotional appeals are really going to kind of like cut the mustard, if you will, because we're actually recognizing that the feminine has effectively been trying to move away from of the emotional appeals, allowing that level of degree of acceptance or integration, due to the fact that the major lesson that the feminine was taking from the Venus in retrograde cycle was the feminine energy's own ability to potentially overgive in areas that they are not getting back in kind. Feminine energy is looking for something from the masculine right now, even if you're in separation. And that is a moment of coming forward from a point of integrity. Even recognizing that this is going to take some kind of transformation within the masculine. For some of the feminine energy right now, there is potentially a moment right now of understanding and recognizing that there is something here that is requiring the masculine energy to come into a point of releasing or relinquishing some level or degree of autonomy at this moment. For some of the feminine energy, one of the difficulty points that we are seeing right now is not necessarily even the fact that some of the masculine energy is proceeding to go forward in this degree and capacity, but it is recognizing the amount of time and the reluctance of the energy to effectively do so that is creating some of this moment of trying to navigate some of the pain that you're carrying at this moment. For the other part of the feminine energy right now, we are seeing that this is a moment that you are also considering and it's seeing that that masculine energy is potentially doing the opposite. They are moving off into that break point. They are breaking away, not wanting to relinquish their autonomy. And again, this point of acceptance and understanding is one that is, again, creating a sense of easement because you are feeling the relief of not effectively wasting your time in situations and circumstances that may prove like they would have in the past. And for the feminine energy that's recognizing this too, it does feel somewhat bittersweet because while you are effectively getting your time back to a certain degree, there is something here about further work that you're doing in terms of healing the trauma that you're carrying around those circumstances or situations. Center card for today's spread. We've actually got these three here, and I believe these are the three that we need to look at because these are the other three that dropped when we were going through. So these are our center cards for today, and they make a lot of sense because we've got three transverse here and one that is in its reversal. Feminine energy and masculine energy right now, for all energies both in and out of partnership, there's something that needs to be considered right now, or there's a lot of consideration being paid into commitment at this time. There is also a lot of feeling of something that is lingering, something that is effectively not necessarily reach a resolution point, potentially even some circumstances or situations from the past that are taking some level or degree of reconsideration. Now, the difficulty and the hurdle around this is we don't necessarily see that there is even a point of understanding or clarity right now in terms of where these circumstances or situations fall. This is more of that like anticipation energy that we're seeing right now. that is potentially inspiring some of this feeling of anxiety that is occurring right now, because it's almost feeling like there's potentially a lot of things that you don't necessarily have resolution on, but are kind of hanging in limbo right now. For masculine and feminine energy right now in partnership at this time, this is something that you are moving right now with a sense of positivity. You are looking for the points of positivity around some circumstances or situations that may feel triggering, difficult, or challenging. There is positive here. This is what we like. We see the fact that there is something about moving things in a positive direction. But whatever that positive direction is, there are still potentially a lot of question marks that are coming into play, specifically as it relates to some situations and circumstances in the past that you may be waiting on clarification on, and levels and degrees of commitment right now. This is even potentially, again, looking at your partnerships, questioning, having some difficult conversations. We did see here, even in the partnerships, as I mentioned right now, there may be something right now about really assessing and looking at what feels like it is equal and making sure that there is that equality that's coming into play right now that is becoming a lot of the focus today. So a lot of conversations, particularly to almost identify what to do in kind of this holding period, we are seeing that some of the masculine and feminine energy in partnership is going through right now. But there's a point of positivity here. There's a point of bright spot. There's something here about being able to move forward in this direction that is allowing for some positive outcomes. Now, for masculine and feminine energy that is not in partnership at this moment, this is a lot more difficult, because what we're really seeing here is for both masculine and feminine energy that is experiencing this right now in separation, we are seeing that there is a feeling of, again, growing anxiety as it relates to time. For masculine and feminine energy, this is going to feel a little bit different. Feminine energy, as we said, is working very hard in releasing grief, moving away from anything that is becoming too traumatizing, too triggering. Feminine's been doing this ever since we saw them leaving that Venus in retrograde cycle. For feminine, we are seeing that masculine right now that is not in partnership with you or is in separation is effectively lying down in terms of one or two different directions at this time. This is either a masculine energy that is effectively allowing for this point of transformation. Feminine energy is asking the masculine to come towards them from a state of openness and integrity. For feminine right now, there is a moment that is creating a space that feels somewhat frustrating, because even for the masculine energy that's potentially doing this at this time, there is this feeling of anxiety in the fact that it took so long for the masculine to come towards you in this way. That is creating this space or place of frustration, because even you're recognizing now that you have to effectively mitigate for that going forward. For the other part of the feminine energy right now, this is potentially feeling, as I mentioned, like this is something that you're not seeing the masculine have a capability for, and that is also creating a frustration, even though you're getting your time back to a certain extent. I have to stress that for a lot of the feminine energy not in partnership right now, this is potentially more of that energy of not necessarily being certain which side of the masculine energy is going to fall on. And this is potentially why we're seeing this level of degree of this self-work happening right now for the feminine. Feminine is building their own conclusions and allowing them to push them forward in this degree right now, due to the fact that some of this clarification on where these commitments are is not necessarily coming to the forefront right now. This is the moment that the feminine energy is effectively allowing this to be a point or degree of building their own opinions on going forward from this time, allowing this to be a point of positivity. For the feminine energy, as we said, if there wasn't that movement or there wasn't that direction coming towards the masculine right now, this is the feminine energy effectively continuing forward on their own direction at this time, not effectively staying back or hanging back around anything in terms of waiting for that to come to a point of fruition. This is why we potentially saw the masculine was moving so quickly right now towards the feminine, because there could even be for the masculine some point of observation and recognizing that the feminine energy is moving forward in this degree or in this vibration. That this isn't necessarily showing a feminine energy that is effectively willing to stay and wait for a commitment or a committed offer to come towards them at this time. Feminine energy is effectively at a point where they're just kind of ready to move on. This is furthering the masculine energy that is still trying to make a point in terms of deciding which way to fall on this, to really have to look right now at commitment. This is almost like getting more like like philosophical right now to the masculine energy that's going through this right now. Because what we're really seeing here is masculine is also potentially being caught in this limbo state. But that limbo state has a lot more to do with partnership itself. And masculine energy really trying to ask themselves what they seek in partnership at this moment. This is going to build the point of clarification for the masculine energy that's trying to determine if they need to hold on to their own autonomy at this moment, or if they're willing to do that point of transformation, of coming into a space of balance and also in equal give and take in order to come into further partnership with feminine. Fourth card coming through right now in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our High Priestess energy. So we love to see this card all across all signs, specifically right now, especially if you are effectively in the feminine energy vibration, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what you feel most aligned to. Feminine energy is holding their ground right now as it relates to being able to maintain a point of allowing their logic and their intuition to guide them at this time. Feminine energy, as we said, is not necessarily open to any emotional appeals at this moment, specifically given the fact that the feminine energy is trying to operate in this more highly intuitive vibration. Feminine energy has recognized that there's spaces and places in the past where, again, allowing things in from their heart space or allowing things in from a point of not equal give and take emotionally has effectively caused situations or difficult circumstances for the feminine energy in the past. This is the feminine energy that is keeping their direction on their intuition and their logic to guide them through any difficulties or hurdles right now as it relates to open-ended situations from the past or situations related to commitment or questioning of commitment at this time. Now, for the masculine and feminine energy that is in partnership at this moment, this is something that is supporting the partnership. Masculine, you could really be seeing right now that you are working or operating right now with a feminine that has this ability, that is able to navigate from this space of logic and intuition. And this is something that you are effectively helping and getting assistance with through some difficult circumstances and situations at this time. Identifying and recognizing that there is some ability or degree of this feminine to effectively harness and channel some of these difficult situations and move them into spaces or places of more positive outcome. This could even be a lot for the masculine right now, utilizing a point right now in terms of having a lot of conversations with the feminine to try to understand and identify their own pain points so that they can find a more productive path forward at this time. While for masculine and for feminine, for your part right now, we are seeing that if you are in partnership, there is also a moment right now that is potentially feeling very triggering. There are some things right now that may feel like you are waiting in terms of understanding which direction some things are going to go into at this time. But again, you are allowing yourself to try to stay in this higher logic-based spiritual approach as you do so to help navigate you through any hurdles and to continue to find the point of promise or optimism that is going to guide you through some of these difficult situations and circumstances. Now, for masculine and feminine energy that is not in partnership right now, this is a very different experience. Feminine energy is just continuing to call back their energy effectively, even in the point of separation right now. We are really identifying and seeing right now that feminine is just really keeping their own focus on their own spiritual path, on their own spiritual journey, on their own point of intuition and logic right now. This is allowing the feminine energy to put a point of degree or trust into the cycle of fate, into the cycle of the path that is leading ahead. Feminine energy is effectively in a space or place right now where feminine is not going to chase after commitments. Feminine energy is effectively just holding firm to the fact that they're not in a space or place where they want to chase after commitments. They will allow a commitment to effectively just lay there completely dormant rather than chase after it, because this is not something that feminine energy wants to feel like they're pulling out of someone. You will remember and identify the fact that one of the things that we saw in the masculine and feminine energy over the last few days was feminine energy potentially feeling or experiencing something that they were seeing from the masculine that made the masculine look like they were feeling forced into this point of transformation. Feminine doesn't want to effectively be in that. Feminine doesn't want to be in a partnership that feels like it was done over point of force or over a point of struggle. This is something that the feminine energy effectively wants to see the masculine energy moving into willingly. The problem is for the energy that's in separation right now, for some of you, even if you're seeing some of that commitment right now, you're potentially even identifying the fact that you don't feel like it was something that was so freely given. This is why feminine is almost holding and uncertain about moving towards something that even looks like potentially a deeper offer of commitment at this time, because the feminine energy doesn't like the degree of difficulty or the hurdles that had to be reached in order to get to this point of level. For feminine right now, this is a moment where feminine is really kind of sitting back. Not a lot of activity potentially today, which is why we are potentially seeing some of this anxiety. Because feminine is trying to effectively maintain their own state of composure, look for the bright side right now, to allow their logic and intuition to dictate them through some of these circumstances or situations. For the other part of the feminine collective right now, this is effectively seeing a masculine energy moving away from you right now, and further recognizing the fact that the reason the masculine energy is moving away from you potentially doesn't have much to do with the connection between you and the energy. More so, it does have to do with the anxiety that the masculine energy may be having towards connection or commitment at this time. Masculine effectively feeling like they're being brought to a point of having to make a commitment and moving away from it. The feminine energy that's in this vibration is also trying to come into a point of higher spiritual and emotional leveling. Specifically because the gift that they're recognizing and going back on is you may have felt like you are getting clarification on something sooner rather than later. You're not letting your time effectively be wasted in terms of this, but it's still something that is difficult to bear as you continue forward from this point. For the masculine energy that is in partnership at this moment, or not in partnership at this moment, again, we still see that there's a lot of this vacillation occurring. There's a lot of this going back and forth. There's a lot of this questioning right now in terms of partnership and what partnership looks like and what it is that you truly seek as it relates to commitments right now. There may even be looking right now at some less past energy, looking backwards right now as you find yourself in present situations to try to identify and decide what this commitment is that you want right now, masculine. We're seeing here that there's a lot of attention that's effectively being paid right now towards a feminine energy that's in this high priestess modality, but recognizing that it is there and being able to move towards it are two very different things. And we're seeing here that for a lot of the masculines, this is giving a moment right now of really trying to ascertain if there is something positive that can be pulled around a circumstance or situation in order to move towards a feminine energy. That again, it's hard because you recognize that they've kind of cut off their own emotional connection to you. They're only operating from their high intuition and their high logic at this time. And it is making it hard for you to move towards them because of that at this moment. It is requiring something from you. But again, you're almost trying to figure out what is required in order to come forward towards that type of energy. Final card for our fight. And I feel like the feminine for their part has already made it clear what that would be. Final card for our 5-card spread. Before we start getting clarification on these cards, this is a very difficult situation for the energies that are not in partnership at this moment. Okay? Because we are seeing here that there's a moment, again, this is either feeling like something that is coming through as an internal upgrade right now for the masculine, or it is feeling like a point of disempowerment. That's why we got to say, I need to warn the masculine energy, if you're feeling this right now, I really want you to put some time and consideration into making sure that you don't do anything that may feel triggering at this time. Because what we're really identifying right now is there is something around the masculine energy where you are feeling like you are losing some level of degree of mastery of the self at this moment. For the masculine, this is potentially either coming through as one or two different things. This is a moment of questioning one's own self, looking at one's own self, letting this be a point of observation that will effectively lead to a better sense of understanding of the self and a higher level of a degree of empowerment for you. For the other part of the masculine, that would be a lot of that continuing on in the point of transformation, due to trying to move towards a feminine that's effectively requiring this at this time, maybe even showing these aspects to you in some way or degree that's helping you through this process or this cycle. For the other part of the masculine energy at this moment, this is effectively feeling extremely triggering, because this is something that may be feeling overly disempowering, something here that you feel like you've lost some sense of control. And this may be something that, again, you're either going to fall on one or two different sides of this right now. Masculine, you're either utilizing this as a path of going inwards to regain or build a deeper understanding and mastery of the self at this moment, or You are feeling highly triggered, highly susceptible, potentially due to some of the feminine energy being in this vibration. Again, there's something about this energy with the feminine when they're here that can feel to the masculine potentially like a point of rejection. But this isn't necessarily a point of rejection if the masculine's feeling this right now. This is a feminine energy that is working very hard to close off a very active emotional part of themselves in order to stay in this point of higher vibration and intuition and logic, having a point of almost like a bird's eye view of observation as it relates to the situations and circumstances that are taking into play. And for some of the masculine right now, that's either going to feel like it is deeply triggering, or it is pushing you to understand yourself to a higher degree. Now, for the masculine and feminine energy at partnership at this moment, we're probably seeing a bit of the latter taking point. What we're really seeing right now for a lot of the masculine and feminine energy in partnership at this moment is there are some circumstances or situations, something is kind of is open-ended, not necessarily getting a point of understanding today. You're mutually bearing that weight. And there may even be some points right now or questions as it relates to like what things look like once that is coming through right now. Masculine, you're feeling some of this point of disempowerment right now, but you're potentially feeling a lot of support and guidance from a very like high logical, spiritual, feminine energy that's around you that's effectively helping bear you up at this time. Feminine, you may be seeing this right now in partnership, recognizing that the masculine energy may be a little bit more short today, may be a little bit more snappy, because there are some things that they're effectively potentially waiting on that is building some sense of anxiety within them. So just be a little mindful of that right now, feminine, if you're in partnership with masculine energy at this time. For masculine and feminine energy that is not in partnership, this is going to feel potentially a lot more triggering, potentially. Because this is, again, more of that moment that's effectively saying like, masculine has to come into a deeper sense of the self in terms of understanding what it is that they want and desire at this time. For some of the masculine, that may be feeling like a point of trigger. Feminine is just trying to stay at a point of like coldness and distance to a certain extent as they do that, not necessarily getting affected by emotional appeals. May I please have one card to clarify? This is the opposite of where we landed right now with the masculine energy that we saw was moving with so much determination a few days ago. This is a masculine energy that is effectively now pulling back to a certain level or degree. They're feeling this point of uncertainty. They're feeling this point of a lack of doubt or lack of focus right now. Masculine energy right now, there's something that is effectively coming into a play that is feeling somewhat disempowering at this moment. There's something here that we are seeing right now with the feminine energy that you are recognizing or observing, that there's something here about not necessarily knowing how to move towards this energy at this time. There's even a point right now that we're effectively seeing for some of the masculine right now that's in this vibration, that you are feeling this level or degree of anxiety and uncertainty coming into play. For some of the masculine energy right now, this is more of that internal growth. This is more of that internal work that you are building within yourself at this time. You are utilizing this as a point of assessing. You are utilizing this as a point of self-work. You are recognizing and you are feeling some situations and circumstances where you're feeling rather disempowered. You are feeling some of this struggle right now. But again, for some of the masculine energy at this moment, this is helping you come into a point of further growth of the self. For the other part of the masculine energy right now, this is potentially this moment that, again, the level and degree of work that is required right now to move towards a feminine energy in this vibration is proving potentially too challenging for one's own self or one's own sense of self at this time. This is something that is pulling you away from something. So again, for the masculine right now, this is either coming towards feminine by having this point of internal transformation or pulling away because the cost to the self is too great at this time. For feminine, there's a moment that you're effectively observing this right now with masculine, and you're not letting it have an impact on you. Seriously, I'm really seeing here for the masculine, the feminine energy that's effectively in this vibration at this time. This is a moment of the feminine energy not letting themselves be affected either way. Almost like moving into a point of balance, not letting themselves get caught in terms of how masculine energy falls on this point. Staying in their own vibration and their own spiritual alignment is what's effectively becoming very critical for the feminine at this time. Let's continue to get clarification on these cards right now between our Temperance card in combination right now with our Nine of Swords in its transverse. So a moment right now that, again, it's feeling like, it could feel very much like a lot of anxiety at play right now. There's a lot of anxiety coming at play because there's some situations or scenarios where people are trying to effectively decide how or where they fall around some situations that we're seeing here. For masculine and feminine energy that is in partnership at this moment, this is effectively waiting right now, potentially on some information to help you get guidance in terms of how to go forward from this time. There's even potentially feeling right now that there's something that you're being forced to wait upon that you would rather not wait upon because you're trying to clear some of this trauma right now. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, there's also potentially this feeling of waiting in terms of seeing which way something is going to fall that is effectively also creating this point of frustration and this need or this feeling of anxiety to see how things are going to move from here in terms of allowing for some pathway going forward. I have to say, this is almost like a lot of that like clearing space to like allow a point of activity to see how things are going to move. May I please get one card to clarify? We've got here our Six of Cups in its upright. This is potentially something that is moving in a space that feels like it is promising. It feels like it is supportive. It feels like there's something here that's coming from a point or a space of healing. Because while there is this moment right now that we're seeing that there's a lot of energy that's effectively kind of like holding their breath or waiting on something, feeling the anxiety of wanting to see something move forward. We're also seeing that there's a lot of support that's coming through around the energy at this time. Recognizing these energies that are around you that are helping you build this level of support for yourself as you are experiencing these things to help navigate and build that point of productivity going forward. For the masculine and the feminine energy right now that is in partnership, this could be really moving into a space or place right now where you're feeling a lot of that support in the partnership. That is that point of recognition that you're getting that immediate burst of like positive karmic energy that is coming in to support you through something that you are effectively feeling like you need to wait upon right now, that is building this sense of anxiety that's coming to the surface here. We almost immediately see the karmic energies coming in to support you as you effectively do this work. While for the masculine, and this could even be, again, within and outside of their partnership. For masculine and feminine energy that is not in partnership at this time, this is effectively feeling more triggering because this is the moment that we are identifying and seeing, and there's a point of recognition that is happening right now between what feels like it is a healthy karmic connection versus what does not. Something around this right now, the reason that the feminine energy is like moving right now from a space of being completely copacetic in terms of whether the masculine energy allows this to be a point of evolution, allows this to be a point of coming into a mastery of the self at this time, or whether it moves the masculine energy away from them, is because the feminine energy is effectively doing work right now to identify the energy that is trying to come towards them that is healed, that is positive, that is productive. Feminine energy is potentially getting a lot of support from the energy around them at this time as they try to do this work to identify and ascertain this at this time. And this is feeling like, again, something that feels very bittersweet. This could even be feeling like right now that there's a lot of energy that is coming through to help carry some of this burden, to help carry some of this trauma that's effectively being experienced for the feminine, because feminine is just in a space right now where they're not necessarily chasing after something unless it is showing that it is in a positive karmic vibration. Masculine, for your part right now, this is potentially feeling like a bit more of a struggle point because we are also seeing that you are going through some moments right now that are feeling somewhat frustrating and overwhelming. You are potentially trying to decide how to move through them right now. And you're potentially getting a lot of this outside support around you at this moment to help you identify and recognize which direction you effectively want to fall in, or how you're going to be able to maintain this point of balance around some situations or circumstances that feel potentially very triggering at this time. For some of you, this is that internal work that's allowing you to come into a space or place of better self-mastery. For the other part of you, this is effectively moving away and getting a lot of support from energy around you as you do so. Continuing to get clarity right now between our Nine of Swords and its transverse. So many transverse cards here. Our Four of Swords and its transverse. Hierophant and its transverse. and our Five of Cups. So this is really trying to like stay at a point of optimism around some situations and circumstances that feel open-ended. Potentially not a lot of activity right now as it relates to some circumstances or situations, but it's like the point of lack of activity is what's creating a space or place of frustration. For feminine, we see that feminine is effectively coming through at a point right now of really just operating on that higher level, that higher intuitive level, that higher spiritual level. That's what's allowing this point of being copacetic at this time. Feminine's just trying to like cruise through and keep that higher vibration. Masculine, you're potentially seeing the feminine doing this. This is a lot harder for you, but you're letting the feminine energy effectively help carry that burden, carry that weight, potentially even getting some notes from them in partnership that's helping you as you're struggling to carry something a little bit harder than the feminine is at this time. While for masculine and feminine energy not in partnership at this moment, this is that moment that, again, is feeling like a deep point of like impasse. Masculine and feminine not in partnership right now. There is potentially a point of recognition in terms of how to proceed forward in a partnership or union at this time. Things from the past effectively kind of hovering and hanging there, looking for a point of optimism, trying to find that point of productivity that's going to allow for some point to come forward at this time. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 10 of Wands in its reversal. The deep desire of wanting to come into and find some spaces and places of easement at this time. One of the reasons that we're seeing right now that this is effectively coming through is that feminine energy has reached a point that they are no longer eager to carry the burden on open-ended commitments, on commitments that they don't necessarily have the full optics on, or anything that they were effectively holding on to from the past. Now, feminine energy has been carrying this weight. We see here that feminine energy has been carrying this weight in separation on themselves this entire time. Feminine energy has been working through carrying a lot of this trauma. Feminine energy does not want to carry this trauma anymore. And feminine energy is affirming to themselves that they are unloading, they are relinquishing this burden, anything from the past that they're carrying. That is why feminine energy right now is looking towards masculine, that they are effectively requiring, demanding in one way or shape or form, some level or degree of commitment from at this time. Because feminine energy is effectively saying that they are no longer going to carry the weight of uncertainty as it relates to partnerships. That is why feminine energy, they're either seeing the masculine right now transforming, coming into something a little bit later than they should, or running away or moving away from them. And feminine energy is effectively letting the masculine energy do that. Because feminine energy is effectively looking at it and saying, good riddance. Good riddance to bad rubbish. Good riddance to bad rubbish. This is something that they've been carrying. The weight of it is too much of a burden for the feminine. The feminine is just saying, that's okay. I can move ahead now. We can move ahead, and this is giving that point of clarity for the feminine not in partnership at this time. For masculine not in partnership at this moment, this is potentially also you feeling that or seeing this on the part of the feminine. You are potentially recognizing that this is feminine energy that is no longer willing to bear or carry the weight of an uncertain partnership or an uncommitted partnership. This is effectively forcing you, masculine, to again move into one or two different vibrations. That is, again, moving away from something from a point of feeling that it is too disempowering to be in this space, because again, there's something here about feeling forced into this modality. Or this is masculine energy working on your own internal energy right now, trying to come into a space of allowing this to be a point of building a higher sense of self-mastery or mastery of the self at this time. But it's very hard because it's not necessarily something that you're very confident in terms of how to do it, and it is requiring you to step back a little bit. Continuing to get clarification on these cards for the masculine and feminine energy right now that's in partnership, this is just the shared burden. This is the idea that a burden that is shared amongst many becomes a much lighter burden. So we see here that there's a lot of points of easement that are coming into play, trying to make something as easy as possible for someone as you go through it, to allow for this to be something that helps support the partnership itself. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now between Hierophant in combination with our Four of Swords and our transverse and our Five of Cups in its reversal in combination with our High Priestess. So, some moments right now, the feminine energy is operating from a state or place of really moving into a modality of not allowing their emotional center to guide them, but really allowing intuition and instinct to kind of take over. Could be feeling a little bit disassociative right now, feminines, if you're experiencing this right now. Specifically because there's some outstanding circumstances or scenarios that you're not necessarily sure what the direction forward will be, but you're just trying to stay optimistic as some of these things hover around you at this time. For masculine, this is effectively the same right now, potentially looking towards feminine energy for guidance and insight at this moment to help you build clarity and optimism for you at this time. While not in partnership, this is you effectively struggling right now, masculines, as to moving towards a feminine energy and trying to find that bright spot, even though you realize that there's a deeper question of commitment that is being requested or required. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Cups in its reversal. Issues and situations and circumstances related to outside energy effectively coming into play right now. And this is going to feel different depending on whether or not you're in partnership at this time. For masculine and feminine energy that is in partnership at this moment, this is effectively some moment or situations right now that are just reaffirming your own commitment to the partnership itself. That we're really seeing here that there's something that is coming into play right now in partnership that is really kind of showing in some way, shape, or degree to the feminine and masculine energy in that partnership. What are the karmic energies that feel like they are productive, that feel like they are supportive, that are feeling like they're trying to lend some level or degree of assistance or help in some situations that feel open-ended, that need this type of energy, versus feeling like you're not necessarily in the mood for anything that feels lighthearted or in a point of easement. There's a point right now for feminine energy specifically. Feminine energy is getting very serious right now. This is not the type of feminine energy that is like looking for any kind of like point of release or point of enjoyment. Feminine energy is really kind of focusing right now on the tasks at hand, specifically because feminine energy is feeling both the anxiety of time coming into play right now, and it relates to their own level of commitment towards things at this moment. Feminine energy is holding right now to a certain degree with this weight, and they're also effectively trying to find that point of optimism at this time. But it is really putting feminine in this vibration where they're not necessarily in a space or place right now where they're up for like navigating anything that feels like more celebratory of this nature. This is feminine kind of rejecting anything in that celebratory vibe right now, in or out of partnership. Masculine, you could be effectively identifying this right now with the feminine. The feminine is moving into this modality. They're not necessarily getting in this space or place where they're up for anything that feels like it isn't like effectively like very committed to like a task that is not in partnership right now. This is again feeling more difficult because what we really see is masculine. You may be effectively identifying right now that there's something about moving towards a particular feminine. And this is where we're getting to the heart of the matter around some of this autonomy that's coming into play. Masculine, we're effectively seeing right now that you are recognizing the value and the weight of the fact that you'll effectively have to shed some people potentially around you or move away from having energy around you right now to move towards a particular feminine energy. This is potentially where we're also seeing some of this anxiety coming into play right now as it relates to how to move forward towards commitment at this time. For some of the masculine collective right now, this is trying to move towards a feminine in this vibration. And either recognizing that you yourself need to let go of some connections and attachments that you have at this time to move towards this feminine energy. For the other half, this is the uncertainty of looking at this enemy energy and not being sure what energy is connected to them. A lot of questions for both masculine and feminine right now as it relates to outside energy coming into play, outside of partnership, that isn't effectively helping these circumstances or situations, because there is this question as to why and whether this uncertainty in moving into commitment is related to outside energy or not, or if it has to do with the autonomy of the masculine. Unfortunately for the feminine is not seeing a difference in those two things. Feminine is seeing that if a masculine energy at this time doesn't want to move into a deeper sense of commitment, it is specifically and only for the reason that the masculine energy either is currently entertaining or has outside energy attached to it. Masculine, you're potentially effectively recognizing and seeing this in the feminine right now. That there's something here about their own point of observation on this that can't effectively be eradicated or eliminated in terms of perception, because they kind of can see it. This is also why we see for the masculine right now, this is one of those feelings that feels somewhat forced, because you feel disempowered. You're feeling forced into this point of upgrade at this moment, or you're utilizing this to move away from something. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Cups in combination with our Ten of Wands in its reversal. So some situations or circumstances that are moving into a space or place of easement. For masculine and feminine energy at partnership at this moment, this is that shared burden. This is taking the value and appreciation of a shared burden and feeling the tremendous easement that comes when you have positive karmic energy around you to help share a burden. This is almost reinforcing to the energies in partnership why the partnerships are so integral, and feeling a lot, potentially even outside energy supporting you in this time that is helping you share a deep burden that you're carrying at this moment. For masculine and feminine energy that is not in partnership at this time, this is effectively the point where this is becoming something that feels like a coming in together or a release. This is either masculine energy and feminine energy coming into a point of being able to build this healthy karmic connection. And this is why feminine is effectively not chasing after masculine for this commitment right now. Feminine energy has effectively potentially just stated their case on what they want right now, and they're looking to see what masculine does with it. And they're perfectly fine either way, because feminine energy is committing right now to only allowing in healed karmic energy. And if not, they're just ready to let it go. Masculine, you are effectively also seeing this right now. Masculine, you may even be leaning right now on outside energy around you to help you through some of this right now, to give you some clarity, to give you some insight, to try to figure out what you can do right now to come into a state of easement. Because as we saw for some of this masculine energy right now, feeling the karmic connection may have come a little too late here. There may have been something that you're kind of recognizing and identifying this better now. And now it's something that you're potentially trying to get outside support on in terms of how to move forward, because you're feeling like there's something about this energy that's effectively cut off from you to a certain extent. We're also seeing right now for the masculine energy right now that this is a moment that, again, you are potentially questioning your own ability or degree of coming into that higher alignment, that higher partnership with this energy. And you're potentially going towards those around you right now to try to give you that clarity as to what you should do. May I please have one card to clarify? Oof, as the card drops to the floor. A point of decision being reached. We like this. We like seeing this. For feminine energy, this is feminine energy just being doubly confident in terms of their decisions or the directions at this time. Feminine energy is effectively, we saw that feminine energy made some decisions over the last few days. They're staying committed to them. They're feeling the easement of being able to stay into those commitments at this time, because it's helping them navigate and strengthen their own course of action at this moment. This is a feminine energy that, again, is not in partnership right now. This is that mutual energy of coming together to make these decisions, bearing a weight that is easier by having that multiple energy around you right now that is also supporting the decision that effectively occurred over the last few days, specifically potentially around the feminine. Masculine, this is potentially also a moment in partnership that you are feeling this. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in partnership, this is that moment that you are seeing right now. The masculine energy is now at this moment where they realize that this is pretty much it. This is that opportunity that is coming in right now that is effectively allowing a point of taking action or a point of abandonment. Letting something go or taking action right now. Masculine, you're effectively feeling this weight right now outside if you are in separation. And it's feeling like a moment where you're potentially even getting outside support today to say, What do I do? What should I do? Is this something that I should try to move closer towards right now, or is this something that I should let go of? Depending on how influenced you are, masculine, by the energy around you right now, will effectively determine potentially even which direction you go into. And I will point out, masculine energy right now, make sure that you're operating from a space of internal choice, because we do see here that with the combination of the Emperor in its reversal and the Knight of Swords in its reversal, that there could be a lot open right now to you taking too much outside influence into account, as opposed to like moving from a place of internal self-mastery at this moment. So keep that in mind as well. For feminine energy right now, this is effectively this moment that you are completely copacetic. Feminine energy is effectively just riding the wave of positive karmic connection right now to help guide their path. And that's what's making things easier for the feminine. That's why feminine isn't chasing after a masculine in this vibration right now, because feminine energy is effectively saying to themselves, the decision that feminine energy effectively made was that feminine energy is not going to chase after a commitment. That's it. And feminine energy is like, that's my decision. Either come in, offer it to me, or I'll let it go, and I'm fine with that decision. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 10 of Wands in its reversal and our 3 of Cups in its reversal. This is that moment. I need to stress, masculine and feminine in partnership right now, there's a lot of work happening here. There's almost potentially a lot of work that's happening in terms of like just focusing on the partnership itself and having to like ease up on commitments, ease up on priorities or options right now, really coming into the sense of things getting easier at this time. But it's almost like leading to a point of having to like push off things that you may have like, I'm getting here like obligations that may have felt like they were more fun, that may have felt like they're more into a space of delight instead of like concentrating on what needs to get done. Today is like one of those days where I just feel like everyone like is almost like kind of shirking from any obligations that they may have put themselves in as it relates to this like playful space right now, because we're just seeing that there's a lot of weight on everyone right now that they're trying to bear, that's making it hard for the masculine and feminine energy right now to have a good time. For masculine and feminine energy that is not in partnership right now, this is effectively a much different energy, because what we're really seeing is, again, masculine energy that's trying to come towards feminine, that's in this high priestess vibration. There is some point of, again, recognizing that some of the autonomy that you may have to relinquish at this time may have to do with outside energy that is connected to you. This is also looking for a space and place of easement. I will also say that for some of the masculine energy going through this right now, when I mentioned the fact that there may be some need or desire right now to get outside support or to get outside advice right now, there could even be an anxiety right now for the masculine about where you are turning to for that advice, having a deeper investigation in terms of the intentionality of that advice that we're seeing here. I say that because we see a lot of uncertainty coming to play right now as it relates to masculine's own fears of self-empowerment and your own decision on how to move forward at this time. And with the combination we see here of both the 6 of Cups here and our 3 of Cups in its reversal, this could potentially even be masculine energy receiving some of that feedback and not liking what that feedback is, and is potentially even leading to a moment right now of questioning whether that the energy around you right now that's trying to potentially support you or provide you advice is coming from a state or place that it is in your best interest, or if you're looking at it and questioning if it is in best interest of the outside energy around you at this time. So this could be a further encapsulation of difficulty that is occurring right now for the masculine energy that is compounding your own frustration today in terms of how to move forward. Just be a little mindful of that today, masculine. For feminine energy at this time, this is a bit different. Feminine energy is kind of like in this moment, they're feeling a lot of supportive karmic energy at this time. They're not chasing after commitments, and they're looking at any energy that isn't able to articulate upon the level of commitment right now as identifying to them in some way, shape, or form that this is potentially masculine energy that already has outside third-party energy around them. This is almost clarifying to the feminine energy that this is exactly what they thought was occurring. So again, a lot of triggering energy right now for both masculine and feminine. A lot of questions about partnership, commitment coming forward in a big way are arising today. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 10 of Wands in its reversal, our 3 of Cups in its reversal. So as we said, that point of trying to make things easier. Also, some anxiety potentially from masculine around the outside energy. For feminine, a commitment not to want to be involved in any masculine energy that isn't upfront or open about outside energy. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Knight of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now, this is going to feel very different if you're not in partnership. If you're in separation, this is feminine energy potentially looking or seeing right now a masculine that is somehow or in some way, shape, or form not consistent with their own passionate offers at this time. This is also potentially coming into play here. There's almost something here with the feminine energy is putting things together in their own head. They're building up, they're understanding, they're building this level of clarity here. And we're almost seeing here that for some of the feminine energy that's not in separation right now, it's like almost like little blocks are clicking into place. I'm seeing here that there might be a lot of mini epiphanies happening right now for the feminine energy that is not in separation, that's pushing masculine energy into this space or this place where they're asking for a level of commitment and they're seeing this degree of hesitancy. Because feminine energy, this isn't just a moment where the feminine is feeling some kind of like pause from the masculine. But feminine energy is using their own intuition and insight and logic to fill in the blanks in between. Like it's almost like coming through right now, like almost like a, you know that game Connect 4? Where it's like boom, 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 boom. It's like I'm getting a lot of energy here for feminine, where we're seeing like a lot of little pieces clicking into place and they're all just kind of like flying down together today. Because for feminine, again, if there's any of this pause, feminine energy is almost like scheduling out or seeing what the masculine energy is effectively doing at this time. This could even be feminine recognizing and saying like, I wonder if the reason they're not communicating with me is because they're either, again, closing down outside relationships, closing down outside situations, or if this is giving through as a moment like the reason they're not communicating or creating this commitment for me is because they just affirmed why there's the outside energies around them and why they're not always here in terms of coming forward from a point of passion. It's like one side or the other for feminine right now. And I got to stress for the masculine, if you're waking a feminine weight on something right now, that's the wrong idea. Boy, was that the wrong idea today. Because this is a feminine energy that's seeing very far ahead today. Like feminine energy's own ability to do this is already kind of like, it's like there's a point here I need to stress for the masculine energy that hasn't communicated. It's not the fact that the feminine energy doesn't know. We're really seeing here that this is a feminine energy. And this is why I said to the masculines, you had to come from a point of integrity. It's because the feminine energy already knows. The feminine energy already knows. There's something here that you don't necessarily even need to communicate because the feminine energy is already kind of figured out in their own sight with their own perception what effectively has been going on, which is why we've been seeing the feminine energy was asking the masculine energy to come forward from a state of integrity. And now the masculine energy, you're effectively potentially seeing this. You may even be seeing this masculine energy from more than one feminine energy. I'm just going to stress that. If you're on the other side of this, if you're on this other side that you're not letting this become a growth cycle, if you're not letting this become the internal growth point, this is going to be potentially a rough day for you today. And I don't want you to get triggered, but it might be because we're seeing here that there's a lot of energy right now that's potentially having this occur around them. For feminine energy right now, again, this is why feminine energy isn't chasing after the commitment, because feminine energy is like, I see what's happening. I see what is happening. Like, this is it. It's like the masculine. There's something here that the point of frustration is, and this is what was so difficult around this right now, and this is why the masculine energy may be feeling like they need to rush forward right now, is because the feminine energy is kind of like, I already know. I already knew. Your actions have reaffirmed what I already knew was at play, which is why if you weren't in communication and you were not open with the feminine right now, it's going to feel a little bit frustrating. Because you're going to be like, how did you know that? How did she know that? It's like, this is why, because she already knew. Like, this is already coming through. Like, this is a feminine energy in their high priestess. Like, come on. But anyway, this is effectively where we find ourselves. But again, for masculine right now, this is further a moment that is requiring you to go through this point. And this is also helping you kind of, again, this is why the masculine energy at this time that is going through this is potentially even feeling some frustration as it relates to some of the karmic energy around you at this time. Because this could even be a moment right now that for the masculine that's going through this right now, you're potentially seeing that some of the karmics are also seeing some of the patterns that are coming into play here. This is also potentially having to hear from some of the karmic energy around you right now that this is something that they also see occurring. So for masculine right now, this could be feeling like a lot of frustrating energy, because it's not just the fact that you may be trying to lean on outside energies for support at this time, but there may be something that the outside energy is communicating to you around it that's also making you have to recalibrate. It's not necessarily, I'm getting here that there's something with the masculine energy right now that it's like the support that you expected or anticipated getting from that karmic energy around you. It's not like kind of patting you on the back and being like, we've got you on this. It's almost saying like, well, you know, we got to kind of potentially look at this. This doesn't seem like it's the first time that this has happened. Doesn't seem like that this is like, you know, it's almost like creating a space right now when the masculine's feeling a lot of frustration on this, which is again why this is becoming a moment of self-mastery, coming into that deeper understanding and transformation of the self, or it's leading to potentially moving away again with anxiety, potentially with fear. Not necessarily, they may even like lead the masculine to be like being like, well, I'm not going to talk to anybody at all today. So I have to warn that for some of the masculine energy, if you let this hit a trigger point, you might not necessarily, you might in fact get in some, I'm getting here, you might even get into some friendship arguments, familial arguments, trying to get advice in terms of how to navigate something because you don't like the advice that you are receiving. So I'm just warning that about that potentially as well today. For feminine, this is just feminine having everything that they thought confirmed, which again is why the feminine energy is feeling like the weight of the bittersweetness, but they're not letting it impact them. There's a lot of the c'est la vie approach that the feminine is effectively getting right now and kind of looking at something and being like, you just kind of confirmed something to me that I thought was potentially happening. Now I know for sure. And potentially even saying or communicating in masculine right now, I wish you had communicated on it. Because feminine, we saw over the last few days, left this ample opening or opportunity for the masculine to do so. Now, for masculine and feminine energy in partnership at this time, this is almost a moment that's just like, again, this is feeling to me like the weight of obligations in terms of having to do things that one doesn't necessarily feel eager to do right now, just becoming a point of frustration. For feminine's just trying to like staying kind of copacetic about it and using their higher intuition. Masculine, we're potentially seeing today that there's some masculine energy that committed themselves to some stuff that you don't even feel like doing. You're potentially even trying to look for a way out of it. I might even see that for some of the partnered energies right now, masculine energy is trying to break out of some obligations that you may have set for yourself with some advice from feminine. Is what I'm effectively potentially seeing here. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Final cards for today's spread between, pardon me, between our Two of Swords in its reversal, in combination with our Knight of, oh, I'm sorry, we hold on a minute. I messed up. Continuing at clarification, apologies, between our three, I knew I was missing one, between our Three of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Knight of Swords in its reversal. So, a bit of an issue here that we're seeing again for masculine and feminine energy. This is a bit of a problem area right now for the energies that are in separation. Why is that? Because again, feminine energy that is looking towards masculine, anything that we're seeing right now in terms of masculine energy, having some point of trepidation as it relates to what feminine is asked for and they are providing. Feminine energy is looking at the masculine right now as confirmation that there's outside energy around the masculine that is causing the masculine not to come forward with the level of immediacy that the feminine energy would effectively desire at this time. This is already a problem. Even for the masculine energy trying to come in and correct for this right now, this could be feeling a little bit like too little, too late that we're effectively seeing here. This is potentially going to be something that needs to be addressed here, because we even saw and we've identified over the last few days that feminine energy asked for something and masculine energy hesitated. And it is the hesitation that has now caused the point of clarification for the feminine at this time. Masculine, this is effectively you potentially seeing this right now. Either again, witnessing some circumstances and situations at play where this is occurring, trying to come in to correct. I will even point out may have to do with multiple people at this time. The other problem that we're potentially seeing right now for any of the masculine energy that is in separation at this time is potentially the feeling or circumstance right now of potentially trying to get outside support on this to help like back you up and not necessarily getting it right now from those around you. That there's something here that is kind of showing something that like, you know, there's a lot of anxiety that masculine is potentially feeling right now, not just towards romantic energy right now, but towards all the energy that is around them at this time. And it's requiring a little bit of a pullback. It's requiring right now from masculine to kind of like feel this anxiety in terms of like backing away, taking some time for yourself today, trying to like come into this space of feeling a little frustrated, potentially feeling a little cornered at this time. I'm going to stress again for the masculines feeling like this. I want you to work on your grounding today. I want you to work on like that feeling of self-empowerment and self-mastery, moving with a sense of integrity and intentionality through something that feels like it is very triggering and may potentially like be triggering you to kind of want to move in spaces or places that feel like they might not necessarily like move you like from a place of like internal intention so much as like something that may come more fear-based. Like be very conscientious of that today, masculine. While for feminine right now, if you're effectively going through this right now, we see that this is a moment that, again, if you're in separation, there's something here that's confirmed something towards you for masculine, and maybe even trying to bring that up is something that's creating further difficulty, because we see here that this is a masculine that is effectively potentially like not moving towards you with the immediacy to help clarify for this that you may ideally desire at this time. For masculine and feminine energy in partnership at this moment, again, I can't stress how this is like much different. This is literally kind of looking at something about the masculine effectively like dragging their feet, potentially having to go do something that they don't necessarily want to do, or they're not necessarily feeling up for doing today. And the feminine is probably just like giving them some point of like clarity and logic is what we're really seeing as you navigate this, because there's something here that's coming into play with the masculine and feminine right now, where you've got something so much bigger weighing you down in terms of your own thoughts right now, that doing these smaller things doesn't even feel like it's like something that you can have fun with. It's almost like there's not a lot of joy that can be generated here, because again, there's almost something about the partnership carrying the weight of something right now that feels very antithetical to moving in this space or place of like enjoyment at this time. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 10 of Swords. So again, this is a moment that's going to feel very different for both masculine and feminine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what you feel most aligned to. For the energies that are not in partnership right now, this is very different. Feminine energy is effectively just calling a halt. They're just calling a halt to anything that they feel isn't coming from a space of authenticity, transparency, clarity, integrity. Feminine energy was asking this from masculine just a couple days ago. We saw that the feminine energy reached a moment with the masculine where they asked them to come forward in this way, shape, or degree. Some of the masculine energy did so, hence leading into partnership and union. The other half of the energy chose not to potentially do that right now, where we're still seeing a lot of the separation energy coming into play. Now, for the masculine energy, we did see that there was something here, that there is this like movement towards feminine right now, but it is requiring, this is the point, this is what we keep seeing. We keep seeing we're reaching this same impasse right now. which is the masculine energy, is effectively in a moment right now where either one of two different things is going to happen, which is either the fact that this is the masculine energy coming into a state or place of allowing a bit of an ego death to occur. This is a point of internal transformation that allows for a deeper level of internal understanding. This is a masculine energy coming into a deeper understanding of self, but it is requiring something that feels very difficult, because we see here that something about this is feeling very disempowering to the masculine that is in this position, which again is either going to be taken as a point that is creating a state or space where the masculine energy feels like they need to push back against it. A lot of that fear-based trigger that I'm talking about. Or this is masculine energy allowing this to be a point of transformation, allowing this ego death to occur, allowing this breakthrough to happen, potentially even coming from a state or place of openness and transparency to allow for something to have something productive going forward, potentially even recognizing right now that to move towards a feminine in this capacity that has brought this energy of the intuition into play, that is in a space or place where they are showing you, they are effectively showing you something that you did not see or you are not willing to admit to them. You are now in that energy with them right now, and you are now at a point where you have to effectively open up towards that energy, hence that bit of an ego death that we're potentially seeing here. Coming into that space of vulnerability that allows for a breakthrough point. Or this is a moment of feeling like this is a bridge too far, that this is a total ending, that this is something that you just have to move away from because you're looking at it as something that would require too much difficulty in order to amend. We're seeing here for the feminine is at a point right now where it's not a rejection of the masculine by any means. It is an observation point towards the masculine to try to say to them, this is why you should have been open about these things, because we already saw them. It was already there. There wasn't something here that was being hidden from this feminine energy. Rather, this is feminine energy that is continuing to look to the masculine and saying, have you done this work yet? Have you learned to grow in this capacity? Are you able to be open in this way or shape or form? For feminine energy that this is happening right now with past masculine energy, this is further that pushing of getting the clarity that you were seeking that you feel like you did not receive. For feminine energy moving into new partnerships, this is a continuation of this work in terms of saying and clarifying that feminine energy does not want to be in any space or place where there isn't complete openness as to what is going on with the masculine energy, regardless of what that is. For feminine, this is feminine energy, again, being completely copacetic with how something is playing out. Feminine energy is working through the art of detachment on this right now. Feminine energy has reached the art of detachment on this right now, coming out of this Venus in retrograde cycle that has now gone direct, where feminine energy has now just decided that the burden that they want to lift or remove is the burden of carrying a commitment that they're not sure what it is. I need to stress, it's not necessarily feminine energy requiring a commitment. Not understanding what a commitment is what feminine energy is effectively abandoning right now. They're not going to be in spaces or places where there's any kind of haziness as to what is occurring. Feminine energy is effectively recognizing any masculine that won't come forward and give them the full breadth of clarity of what is going on in their life as that point of ending. Feminine energy is effectively seeing this from masculine, has been asking masculine to provide this, just that level of clarity. Masculine, again, either a bridge too far, ego death, or a point of a point of departure. For masculine and feminine energy right now that is in partnership, this is just that weight I'm seeing here of feeling this level of degree of frustration around some situations or circumstances. Again, masculine is in this point right now where masculine doesn't even want to kind of move forward right now as it relates to some obligations. And we're seeing here that that's because, there's almost like a lot of anxiety that's coming into play here. There may even be feeling like a lot of exhaustion on the part of the masculine at this moment that is effectively just like requiring a moment that like there just isn't this like desire to have to like go towards some of these things that you may have set your intentions on. Feminine energy is also kind of operating in this state or space right now that like is allowing for some of this processing to occur. Feminine energy is also simultaneously there. And this may even be a day right now where like I feel like I can see a lot of people like backing out of obligations right now, or backing out of plans, specifically because they're not necessarily in like the mood or in the inclination right now to be in a space or place of like delight or easement. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Two of Swords in combination with our Knight of Wands. Masculine energy, again, this is the masculine energy in partnership right now. This is masculine energy effectively. Again, I just keep seeing there's something about like making some changes or making some adjustments to your plans because of your own like point of not necessarily feeling like up. I'm seeing you're up for travel, up for communication. I just keep getting here some kind of like adjustment that is effectively occurring right now. Or a point of resistance is effectively coming through. For masculine and feminine energy that is not in partnership right now. And then again, feminine, I'm seeing here, you're effectively, for the feminine energy in partnership right now, this is effectively taking the lead of the masculine right now around some of these circumstances or situations that may require some of this point of adjustment. For masculine and feminine energy, not in partnership right now, this is much different, because what we're effectively seeing at this moment is the fact that the masculine energy is just not necessarily on this point right now where you're feeling this creative blockage, you're feeling this passionate blockage. Potentially masculine energy, if you're feeling this right now, you're potentially feeling it in like all areas today. It's frustrating because what I'm really seeing here for the masculine is it's not just the fact that you feel like you can't effectively communicate with the feminine right now, but you're potentially feeling like you can't communicate with those around you that you would typically normally turn to advice towards, because you're even questioning whether their advice is not necessarily what you want to hear, is what we're seeing here. There may be something right now, but I also see that there's something very important about the masculine being in this vibration, that it is requiring or allowing you to take some action as a result. For feminine energy right now, this is a moment that we're effectively seeing that this is what's guiding you right now. That the lack of communication, the lack of consistent communication from masculine right now is all the clarity you need to make any decision that you feel you're called to do right now. That's it. Like feminine energy is just at a point, place, or space right now. This is feminine energy effectively allowing cycles to close and saying, like, if you cannot be open, forthright, communicative, there's nothing here. May I please have one card to clarify? Two cards coming out to clarify. Beautiful two cards together. Absolutely beautiful two cards coming together. Transformation in support of one's spiritual, emotional healing. Feminine energy, maintaining high priestess through this. Feminine energy, not moving or not chasing after a masculine that will not give this level of commitment, or is leaving that level of commitment questioning, or putting them in a space that they have to wait. Feminine energy is rather letting the cycle close. Feminine energy is just letting the cycle close and turning their attention in terms of what feels most emotionally and spiritually supportive for the self at this moment. Feminine energy is not looking back when they do that. They're just maintaining this point of higher level. They're taking this, you know why feminine energy is taking this into a spiritual journey. Feminine energy is just keeping this as a spiritual journey right now with the masculine. This is becoming more and more for the feminine like a valuable lesson instead of something that they are working to try to preserve or fix. Masculine, for your part right now, this is also, again, a repetition on what we have been seeing so far. This is that moment that you're potentially feeling and experiencing right now that is either leading you to a point of movement away or transformation. There is something here that is feeling like it is taking a big hit to your ego. It is taking a moment that feels very disempowering. But you're also recognizing that it is not an act of rejection in that moment. It is calling you into a space or place to rise to that challenge. But there's a point that is requiring almost a level of transformation within the self in order to do so. The masculine energy that is feeling this right now will fall on the place or space that feels like it will be most emotionally supportive for them to do so. For some of the masculine energy, you're not ready to have that point of transformation right now, and that's all well and good. You're going to effectively choose what you feel is best for you at this moment. This is that moment that you may decide that moving away from something that is too challenging or too triggering to your own internal need and preservation of self, that this is too great of a task. But we like this because there's a point of education that is coming through here. There's a point of understanding. There's a recognition of moving with more purpose and clarity from this point that, again, we like to see. For the other part of the masculine energy, this is effectively you being in a space or place where, like, there's going to be some painful transformation that's occurring potentially actively right now. And it may be difficult because, again, you may even be a space right now where, like, even if you were resistant to this point, I almost feel like the unlocking of this in some way, shape, or form may have to do with some of this outside energy that you would typically turn to get clarity, and not necessarily getting what you expected to hear from them. Getting something that you potentially needed to hear but you didn't want to hear is what's giving you this, like, moment of having this, like, point of understanding being reached that is also leading you into a space or place of transformation. For feminine, feminine's already in this. Feminine's already there. Feminine's effectively saying, whatever needs to move out of the way needs to move out of the way. Whatever I need to change within the self, I'll change within the self. I'll completely rearrange myself, whatever is necessary, because the goal right now is the preservation of the emotional, spiritual self at this moment. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is going through partnership. There's a lot of transformation that's happening in and around the partnership right now. Maybe some very difficult situations that you are dealing with. Some heavy transitions that are occurring around the partnerships right now. But you're doing everything you can to emotionally and spiritually support one another as you go through that. Next card to get clarity on between our Knight of Wands and its reversal in combination with our Ten of Swords. So a moment, again, masculine and feminine energy. Masculine, this is that ego death that we're effectively seeing. There's something here that you're effectively feeling, if you're not in partnership at this moment, that you're feeling almost passionately blocked in many, potentially multiple directions right now. That is either, again, requiring a space or place that you are moving away from some things, maybe even multiple things right now, or you are going through this point of ego death. You're going through this point of transformation. You're going through this point that is helping you identify and understand what you need to change within the self. And it's going to feel like potentially painful energy because this is heavy energy when we see it. This is a lot of deep work on the self that, again, could feel like a bit of an ego death. This is either that going into that process right now, or this is effectively backing away, potentially even from multiple places and spaces, potentially even right now, masculine, from multiple friends that that may have some, like, upsets today in terms of you trying to come to them with these issues and not necessarily getting the response that you would have ideally expected. May I please have one card to clarify? Well, for masculine and feminine energy in partnership right now, this is feminine energy effectively trying to lend support in some way, shape, or degree to masculine as you're both going through some very difficult situations and circumstances. This is beautiful because all of this is refocusing on what everyone's heart's desire is. For the masculine and the feminine energy right now that's not in partnership, feminine has realigned their focus. What is feminine's focus right now? The self. Their own spiritual and emotional self right now. Feminine energy is working right now, again, recognizing, and this is the important part for the feminines doing this, feminine energy recognizes that the best thing that they can do for all of those around them, in or out of partnership, is maintain emotional and spiritual balance. Thank you for the gift. Because only by taking care of oneself can you take care of all of those around you. That they're looking at themselves from a perspective of recognizing the value and importance of the self and maintaining that level of composure so that they can continue to help those around them at this time. Feminine energy not in partnership is also recognizing and realizing this, and also recognizing that a good partner for them will not have them have to jump through hoops like this. They will also want the feminine energy to be in a space or a place where they are taking care of their own emotional and spiritual health. That good partnership for the feminine will do everything they can to foster and support feminine in that type of vibration. So feminine is not looking to chase after commitments right now, because feminine energy recognizes and realizes that chasing after commitments is not something that is emotionally or spiritually satisfying to them. It puts them in a lack mentality. This is focusing the feminine on the self, which we love to see here. Feminine energy is building this within the self and recognizing that those who value this will come to them. Masculine, at this moment, if you are not in partnership, this is going to feel a lot more difficult, because what we're really seeing here is, what did I say about the fact about the masculine energy needing to make a choice? Today, I'm actually very happy to say that while that choice may have felt prior to this day like other people were pushing you into it, today may feel like more of a day masculine, where you feel like you are making this choice for yourself at this moment. Why do I say that? Because we see here the fact that you're in this space of disempowerment. You're in this space of feeling some of the anxiety coming into play. We're seeing here that there's a lot of issues around karmic energy that are around you right now, potentially even feeling some points of frustration around a lot of the energy right now of the feminine, feeling very disassociated and disconnected to you at this time. This could even be you potentially taking a lot of these problems that you're feeling around this energy, being in this vibration, to others around you at this time, and you're not necessarily liking the answer that they are providing back, which is effectively forcing you again into a space or place where you need to effectively decide for yourself what is best for yourself at this moment. For some of you, as I said, this is going to be the focusing of your path towards a single manifestation of feminine that you recognize is going to require some level of degree of ego death in order to proceed towards. This is a lot of that self-work, having to come open in this fashion that you haven't necessarily come open to before. For the other part of the masculine collective at this time, this is a returning of the energy to the self. This is potentially looking towards the self at this moment, identifying and recognizing that you are making these choices for yourself at this time, and only for yourself at this moment, because that is what you feel is, because again, the cost or the level of degree of the ego death required to move towards this feminine is too great. Or there may be feelings right now that there's multiple ones that you're trying to decide between, because there is some of that energy here if you're in separation masculine. Either way, we like this here because this is masculine energy coming into a point of choice for the self. Specifically for the self. This is a choice that you're making internally, and you're not feeling pushed into it. You're doing it as a moment of taking back some level of control. This is how the control is coming back today from the masculines. So again, make sure you're not operating from a space of anxiety or fear. Make sure you're utilizing a lot of intuition and intention at this time. Final cards for today's spread. Beautiful cards between our Seven of Cups in its reversal, our Death card, and our Ace of Cups. These are amazing cards in combination today, because we are seeing tremendous transformations occurring today. A lot of choices being made in terms of what it is that one truly values at this moment, with a lot of care and capacity and degree to what it feels like it is in the best interest of the self, for both masculine and feminine, in and out of partnership. These are all incredibly positive cards to be ending our day, like ending this reading on today. May I please have one card to clarify? Some solitude is required. This is going to feel a little bit different depending again on where you are on this collective. But for everyone right now, this could be a day that we're really seeing that there's a lot of internal journeying occurring. Taking a lot of time for yourself, going into contemplation, going into meditation, allowing that space to really help focus on what it is that you truly desire at this time. Specifically, I mean, the feminine's kind of already in that vibration we're already seeing here with the High Priestess here. Masculine, and we're seeing that you're also moving into this at this moment, taking some time for yourself at this time to really help like align what that path and purpose is today. Beautiful energy today, but again, potentially feeling a little bit isolated today. But again, utilizing that isolation into a space or place of productivity, letting that be a source of wisdom instead of anxiety, is going to be very valuable as you proceed forward from this point. Bottom of the deck for today's reading. Bottom of the deck for today's reading is our Six of Pentacles, and it's in its reversal. This is all about reciprocity. This is all about even give and take. This is even why the feminine energy isn't necessarily being moved tremendously right now by an emotional appeal. Feminine energy is looking at what they are being asked to put forth and asking, what am I getting back in kind? Feminine energy is not doing that. Feminine energy feels selfish doing that. That's why this card's in its reversal here. But feminine energy is also learning and recognizing that reciprocity isn't a selfish act. It is a fair one. It's hard for feminine to do that work. Masculine, this is about the opposite. This is about your need to give forth in ways and places that you feel a lot of anxiety doing so with today. This is still a struggling point because there's a lot of anxiety about releasing or being open in this capacity or degree. But we're also seeing to a certain extent that you feel like the time has come for you to be able to do so. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, something about your situation or circumstances right now may be requiring you not necessarily to be able to be there for each other to the capacity or degree that you would ideally desire at this moment. And I feel like this is something that needs to be navigated at this time. Thank you. That is our daily collective read for the day. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and sharing it with me. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading, you can book one on my website, Strega.com. My private readings are done over video with the option of a recording sent to you afterwards. And if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber ID at the point of payment. Please remember that my readings, to book a reading on my site, is a two-step process. You have to book the reading and you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you would like to have that reading. Most importantly, I would like to remind you that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never inbox you. I will never slide into your PMs and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I want to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these readings. And we will do this again tomorrow.